What's up, guys? It's Jeep here, and welcome back to another FC 26 video. It is starter squad season for FC 26, and I'm seeing a lot of people piece together what they call their cheap Premier League, La Liga starter squads. And what I'm going to be showing you today is how to avoid losing coins on your early squads in FC 26. I see it every single year. People include the same players, and they're losing tens of thousands of coins on these cards in the first week of the game, which we just can't afford. So today we're going to talk about the players to avoid holding on to for the first week of the game and alternatives that you can use in your starter teams so that you're not losing all these coins on these players. So let's go ahead and dive into this and first talk about players that we want to avoid early in the game so we're not losing loads of coins. And one of the prime candidates here is going to be a player like Gavardiol, and you're going to see a very common theme here. We want to avoid a lot of these kind of lower rated cards that have mid-tier stats. So we want to avoid cards that are like less than 84 rated with decent stats, and they just end up being way too expensive at the beginning of the game. So for the first couple days of the game here, this Gavardiol is like 8,300 coins, he's 7,500, and then he just absolutely plummets in price once the first squad battles in the first week of the game really kicks off, because since he's so low rated, he gets packed a ton and people kind of move on from these cards relatively quickly. They start moving on from Gavardiol to like Gabriel, Saliba, whatever the card may be. So these low rated cards get a ton of supply early on, and I see a lot of people's starter squads are kind of based around players like this. So I try to tell people avoid these cards early on because these are the prime candidates for a crash. So how do you build your squads early on then to avoid losing tons of coins like this? I mean, Gavardiol, you're basically losing 3/4 of his value in the space of a week here. So there's a couple different ways you can go here to build your squad depending on how many coins you have. So the first way is going to be to skip that mid-tier and go to the high-tier meta cards. So this isn't going to be something that's going to be affordable for a lot of people, so I'm going to breeze over it really quickly and kind of get into the other options. But I mean, skip over that Gavardiol, go with somebody like Saliba, who the power curve isn't going to skip over that quickly, and he's going to hold his value for a while here. So while it's more of an investment, you're not going to sit there and lose all your coins on a card like this because he's going to continue to hold value. So that's one option, is to just move on to those high tier meta cards. Now, another option here that is going to make a lot more sense is going to be just tier down from somebody like a Gavardiol. Instead of going for one of these 84, 85 rated cards that's kind of expensive at the beginning of the game and I guarantee is going to drop in price. I mean, somebody like a Konate here is somebody, there's just no reason to sit there and lose all your coins on a card like this early on. Let's see what he did. He actually held his price relatively well here, but there's going to be a lot of players that I just see no reason for us to lose coins on. So let's tier down and go to some players that might be a little bit worse that are good, but are going to be just fine for you. Somebody that's a less popular option last year would have been an Ezri Konsa here. I love this as a substitute for a Gavardiol. He has very, very similar stats to Gavardiol here. Doesn't have the playstyle plus, obviously. Has good playstyles though. And if we look at his price, I guarantee you he dropped, but he wouldn't have been expensive enough for you to lose a lot of coins. So his absolute peak in price was 1,700 coins. So the most he could possibly go down to is his discard price at 700 coins. So this is a player that I think is a realistic option for a starter squad. Look for these options that are like 1,500 to 2,000 coins, can still be a little bit lower rated. We want to avoid getting those 83 rated cards that are 10, 15,000 coins that can then plummet in price within the first week. So this would be a center back example of that. Avoid somebody like Gavardiol and stick with somebody like a Konsa card here. I think that's a really good option. Next up, a player to sort of avoid. I've moved over to the right back position here, and it's somebody like Diogo Dalot. And again, this guy was kind of inflated as well because he had an Evo early in the game. But this, again, is a prime example of like, yeah, he's a good right back early on. He's got 85 pace, 79 defending, 79 physical. But he's only 82 rated, and when we get tons and tons of supply onto the game, this guy just plummets in price, and you've lost all your value again within the space of a week. So some different options we have. That more expensive option in Kyle Walker, who really held his value for 3-4 weeks until he saw a big crash. So that's our more expensive option. And I guess I didn't bring up a cheaper option there, but let's go have a look at the right backs here and just see for these FC 25 right backs, who could we bring in that maybe is a less popular option, a little bit worse than that Dallo, but we're not going to lose our house on within the first week of the game. And again, we'll be doing a lot of this on stream and in the Discord, so make sure you guys join the free trading Discord. Link is in the description. Let's just look for somebody with a little bit of pace here. I'm sure these two are a little bit expensive. Somebody like Munoz here. What was his price early on? He's got some good play styles as well. If we go look at the first month of the game, this guy was 800 coins. Like, these are starter squad options, not these 83, 84 rated cards, 82 rated cards that are 6, 7, 8K that are just gonna plummet in price. You need to swerve those options and go for somebody cheaper like Munoz here, who was really, really good. So we're gonna continue to keep our eyes on some of those options. And then I think the last example I had here would be, I don't know, somebody like a Saka here. I feel like there's probably a cheaper player we could look at here. Let's look at right wing options or even striker options in the Premier League. Let's go Premier League. We'll go position right wing here. And let me know if this is making sense in the comments down below. It's the idea of swerving those like somewhat lower rated options, like 83 rated cards that are expensive, because that supply comes in and it just murders the price of these cards. What about Malin here? Look at the first month of the game, see where his price was at. Let's bring the graph up here, actually. I'm very confused by that. Okay, he wasn't at Villa until January. That's why I was absolutely lost by his graph not starting at the right time of the game. So, like, for example, a nice, cheap, lower rated option. Somebody like Kudus could have been an option early on. Somebody like Doku, I feel like, was somebody we swerved, because again, this was a low rated card that was super expensive early on here and then just plummeted in price. You'll see, like, got up to 33K here. I think he had a team of the week early on as well. And then, like, you're just, boom, he's plummeting in price because these low rated cards are just not going to hold their value at all. So we want to avoid those low rated, cheap starter squad players that you see on Twitter and stuff. And we want to opt for these players that are lower rated, but still have the stats to back it. Somebody like a Pedro Neto, like a Brennan Johnson here. This right here is a starter squad player. 89 pace, 74 shooting, 78 dribbling. Like, this is what we call a starter squad player early on. And we look at his graph, I mean, he's discard price, as you can see here. So that's how you're going to avoid losing your shirt on your starter squad players early on. No purchasing 10,000 coin 83 rated cards. We are not doing that early on. We're either skipping those high tier elite players that will hold their value, or we're going for somebody with almost similar stats but is down in the 1,000 coin range that you're just not going to lose your coins on. So keep that in mind when you're building your squads early on, that market crash that will come for those low rated players. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch the next video.